In this video, you will learn how we can construct the frequency distribution or make a data set table, or how we can arrange data in group form. So there are some steps which are very important to construct the frequency distribution. So keep in mind, before constructing the frequency distribution, you must know about the range. As range is defined as the highest and minimum value of the data set. So whenever you have raw data set and to construct the frequency distribution, at the very first step, you need to find the range. So apply here the formula of range, which is the difference between the largest and smallest values of the series of the data set. So after finding the range, the next step, how we can decide the number of classes. So there is a rule of thumb, and by applying this rule, we can easily find a rough guess about the number of classes. So if we represent the number of classes with the k, then total number of classes must be 1 plus 3.322 times log of n. Here, k is the number of classes and log of n is the logarithm of the total number of observations. So after finding the range, you have to decide about the approximate number of classes. So whatsoever answer comes after the decimal, you have to round it up for the number of classes. Like if you get the answer 5.4, you have to round it up like approximately equal to 6, because in 5 classes we can cover the 5, but 0.4 still missing in the 5th class. So we have to round up in case of number of classes. So whatsoever is the answer of this, we have to round it up. So this is a rough guess of the number of classes, and if you choose an appropriate starting point, then your number of classes must be equal to k, but it can be increased or decreased by 1 or 2 class from this number of classes. So after this, in next step, you have to find the class interval. So class interval is basically the ratio of first two steps, in which you have to take the ratio of range and number of classes. So when you divide first two steps, you can get the approximate class interval size. So at the first step, you have to find the range, then decide the number of classes, and after that, find the class interval, and then decide the starting point. So the starting point must be choose like in which the minimum value of the data set must exist in the first class. Like you can choose it as 0, 5, 10, 15, 20 for your ease, but you can also choose it from the smallest value of the observations and can also choose 1 point less than that smaller value. But make it sure in first class, the minimum value of the data set must exist. So after deciding the starting point, you have to find the remaining class limits. And remaining class limits is very easy to find once you have decided the starting point. So you just have to add the class interval in the classes and you can get the remaining classes very easily. Like if the class interval is 10 and your starting point is 5, then the next class lower limit is 15, and then the next is 25, and then similarly, you can add 10, 10 in each class, you can get the remaining classes. So this is the way how you can calculate the number of classes and then determine the remaining class limits. And these 5 steps are very important to construct a frequency distribution. So in next step, you have to make a table in which each observation must be marked in their respective classes with the tally bars, and then count the tally bars and write down the frequencies. So these 6 steps are used to construct the frequency distribution. At the very first step, you have to find the range, then decide the number of classes, find the appropriate class interval, and then decide the starting point and find the remaining classes. And at the last step, you have to distribute the data into respective classes by tally-bar and count the tally-bar, you can get the number of frequencies of each class. So this is all about how we can construct the frequency distribution or how we can make the group data from the ungrouped data set.